Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive straight into a really visceral thought experiment that will honestly completely shatter your relationship with terrestrial space. We are looking at a deeply fascinating concept today, the sheer physical, economic, and philosophical reality of what would happen if a human being could actually defy gravity.
So, let's just dive right into this. Picture this. You step outside, but you're not getting into a mechanical airplane. You're not strapping on some bulky jetpack. Instead, you're lifting off using a completely silent, physics-defying lift that originates entirely from your own center of gravity. Just you and the air. The source material describes that very first time you consciously command your body to leave the ground as this crazy, dizzying mixture of absolute terror and raw evolutionary euphoria. Because think about it. Down here on the ground, life is chaotic. You've got gridlock dirt, hard concrete pavement, and that constant muffled baseline noise of civilization that we are all just so used to, right? But the absolute second you ascend, all of that changes. As you break free from that invisible anchor chaining humanity to the dirt, the gridlock traffic below shrinks into what looks like a slow-moving ant colony. All that noise is instantly replaced by the clean, unyielding rush of the upper atmosphere. It's a silent, boundless, multi-dimensional highway just waiting to be explored at your absolute whim.
All right, moving to Section 1, leaving the ground behind, the definitive break from human limitation.
Just imagine that invisible anchor suddenly snapping like a brittle thread. It's gone. Think about the sheer, dizzying terror, but also the absolute joy of watching the pavement literally drop away beneath your sneakers. You're watching the roofs of houses shrink into these tiny little geometric blocks. Standing up there on a cushion of empty air a few hundred feet above the tree line, your entire psychological relationship with the ground is completely and permanently rewritten.
So, Section 2, Physics of the Troposphere, adapting to the unforgiving vertical dimension.
Now, actually surviving out in the open air isn't just about floating effortlessly. It requires intense, constant, real-time sensory mapping. First off, you have to balance your core against thermal updrafts and completely unpredictable wind shears. Second, you have to remember that the temperature drops incredibly fast with every 1,000 feet, turning a nice balmy breeze into freezing, razor-sharp gales. You would absolutely need heavy-duty aerodynamic gear, specialized goggles, and thermal insulation just to survive. Third, you've got to map out dangerous downdrafts hiding near mountain ridges and dodge the blinding moisture of storm clouds. And finally, step 4, which is a big one. You must constantly calculate your trajectory to avoid wandering into restricted commercial airliners or military radar zones.
And that actually brings us to a really fascinating term from the source material, the microkinetic balancing act. Basically, this is the constant adjustment of your core muscles required to maintain stability within a highly dynamic, fluid sea of changing atmospheric pressures. You literally have to treat the atmosphere as an invisible architecture, actively reading the air while wearing all that heavy gear just to endure the freezing elevation. It's a deeply physical, exhausting, but totally exhilarating endeavor. Turns out, holding a plank in midair while dodging angry geese and freezing your nose off is quite the workout.
Okay, Section 3, Building a Sky Empire, monetizing the biological anomaly.
Think about mainstream film production for a second. It usually requires $1 million budget, massive crews, and those insanely expensive commercial camera drones. Meanwhile, your self-sustaining creative empire, well, that just takes a single laptop, your sweeping solo flights, and raw POV footage. Having absolute freedom of movement gives you incredible commercial leverage to completely bypass traditional transit lines and capture impossibly smooth, cinematic shots that giant studios could just never replicate, no matter how big their budget is.
With that kind of capability, your digital footprint practically builds itself. You can easily explore totally inaccessible structural ruins or document sweeping flights over jagged mountain peaks. By showcasing the unedited, raw reality of human flight, you would command massive global attention. And leveraging this hyper-addictive content niche enables you to fund high-end equipment and secure entirely remote, unreachable mountaintop properties. Essentially, you're using your flight to fund an off-the-grid lifestyle far away from choked city streets, turning yourself into an unstoppable engine of financial independence.
But there's a flip side. Section 4, the price of secrecy, the isolating wall of human relationships. Picture walking through a crowded, totally normal local marketplace, but you're carrying this incredibly heavy secret that would instantly alienate you from everyone else if it were revealed. Or imagine sitting in a standard business meeting, listening to people stress out over flight delays, property lines, and geographical boundaries. In those everyday moments, you realize the absolute, undeniable necessity of keeping your gift hidden from defense agencies and border patrols. You are completely disconnected from the things everyone else around you is worrying about.
Because let's be real, overnight, you would become the most highly sought-after laboratory target on Earth. That fear of exposure completely transforms your incredible gift into a high-stakes intelligence operation. If global defense agencies, border patrols, or predatory scientific corporations ever found out about a biological human capable of unrestricted radar-evading flight, you'd instantly become hunted. You wouldn't just be a celebrity, you would be a target.
And this high-stakes reality forces your most exhilarating flights entirely into the shadows. Let's look at the timeline of a typical ghost flight. It's 12 a.m., midnight. You quietly slip out of your house under the cover of darkness. By 1 a.m., you're ascending into the ink-black sky, far, far above the city lights below. And by 2 a.m., you're navigating the starlit clouds in ghost-like silence. You are literally running parallel to the stars in the dead of night, up where absolutely no human eye or automated lens can track your silhouette.
Which brings us to our final part. Section 5, the philosophy of flight, the grandest evolution of human significance.
Once you're up there, terrestrial arguments literally lose their gravity. All those artificial borders, those socioeconomic classes, the artificial restrictions we put on ourselves, they just vanish. Earth becomes a single, unified visual experience. And as a result of seeing that, you gain this calm, unshakable grace when you walk back among the grounded crowd. When you know you can escape Earth's noise at any moment just by leaning upward. The superficial anxieties and trivial arguments of civilization permanently lose their grip on your mind.
Because from 10,000 feet up, the planet isn't a rigid map of divided countries, it is just a single, beautiful, undivided tapestry of green, blue, and light. With that kind of perspective, you are completely unaffected by the petty frictions of the daily grind. You know deep down that you carry the ultimate escape plan right inside your own muscles.
When the pressure builds and the world down here just becomes way too loud, you can simply step into the shadows, tilt your head toward the horizon, and just vanish into the infinite, peaceful freedom of the open sky. That knowledge alone brings an incredible sense of peace, serving as a constant, very physical reminder that the bounds and stresses of our daily lives are, well, largely an illusion.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a question regarding your own personal boundaries. Would you trade the comfort and safety of the grounded crowd for the isolating, magnificent freedom of the open sky? It's a really profound trade-off between a sense of belonging and absolute, boundless freedom. I hope this structured journey through the architecture of human flight has given you an entirely new perspective on the sky above you. Thank you so much for engaging with this explainer today. Keep looking up, and I will see you next time.